Hey, this is Web3 Talks, the podcast where we learn how to build Web3 projects directly from Web3 founders. My name is Maciej Budkowski and I talk with the founders about their projects, business models, technology, community building, user acquisition strategies, and more. If you want to start your own project or are just curious about the space, this podcast will bring you answers. Stay tuned. Before we start this episode, I want to just make a small announcement that our podcast has a Discord community, and I will share a week-long Discord invitation on our Twitter and my own Twitter, so people can join if they want to discuss things that we discuss here, or maybe they have some questions related to blockchain, Web3, crypto, or whatever. Yeah, and hello Nitish. I am very pleased to see you here.
Hi, Maciej. The pleasure is mine.
As we talked before this recording, I took a look at your tool and we'll definitely talk a lot about it today. But before we get to that, I would like to ask you to tell a little bit about yourself, like what's your background, what are your tech-related experiences so far?
Sure. So for the viewers, my name is Nitish, and I graduated with a degree in chemical engineering in 2016 and realized, chemical engineering wasn't for me. So I moved on to management consulting, worked for a few years there. And that was when I first got introduced to the startup world. I was consulting with a government in India on how they can attract new startups to their city. And by that time, I was also disillusioned by management consulting and wanted to, get my hands dirty building stuff. And I think mid 2019 was when I jumped into the startup world. Built a few products since then. Some didn't take off, some are doing decently well. So I think the first one we built was Phone Post. It was like a voice messaging application like WhatsApp, but with focus on just, voice and regional Indian languages, because we noticed not many people can type that fast and that great in English. So they resort to just sharing photos and videos. So that was our first product. And then we built another called 360 Katas. It's a 360-degree feedback tool built on top of Slack. And one thing we noticed while building these products, right, was that the best feedback or the best inputs always came from outside our team, because there's only so much talent within the team, right? People have solved so many other problems and are across the world. When we just told our networks about some of the challenges we were facing, they just solved our problems like that. Like, for example, which audio format to use in Phone Post, right? For the optimal speech to text listening versus the size of the audio format itself. Things like that. We didn't have to research ourselves and figure out the whole thing again. Somebody who's already done it, been there, done that, just pointed us to the right tool and bam. We've probably moved a few weeks in a few days. That's when we realized, hey, like when you build in public or when you involve your network and involve people outside your team, you're probably increasing your odds of moving faster or your odds of success. And that was actually the route for why we started building out Bip.
Okay. Yeah. And I tried out Bip before our meeting. And my first thought was that it's like Notion. For people who don't know Notion, it's like a very popular knowledge/project management tool now. Because you could create documents, you could link them, you could create tasks, and so on. But I've noticed some different features there. So could you tell us a little bit about differences between Notion and Bip?
Yeah, I think at a fundamental level, what you said is true. It's similar to Notion in that you can create documents, you can comment, you can iterate on them. But it's built different from the ground up in that I would say Notion is probably looking at itself like a full-fledged no-code tool and targeting teams, maybe more. We wanted to build something that's more open in terms of can we allow a place where I can collaborate with the community, with people who I don't know to come and iterate on my documents, right? And that meant, and we took a parallel from the tech world, right? Where everybody collaborates on Git. So you said, what if we marry a Git-like workflow onto rich text documents? So that's how it's built different from the ground up. So we have like a Git workflow, Git kind of version control system on top of our documents. And Our focus is community. So we are focusing on, let's say, a deep integration with Discord. So we can manage permissions right from Discord itself. Like,
Oh.
let's say you have a Discord server and you probably have roles for different users. You can give those roles specific permissions to documents on BIP. And it always stays in sync.
Mm.
Like, as more users get added, they get access to those documents automatically on BIP. When you remove them, they lose access. So we're focusing more on that integration because a large chunk of communities now are on Discord, and we don't want them to, manage their community here, then come to BIP and every day manually
Yeah.
add members onto their BIP workspace. So things like that, I think that's something that our users are loving, the deep integration with Discord.
Yeah, and one thing that I noticed, it's a small thing but pretty significant, is that you can add like emojis and so like many reactions inside the tool. And it's nice because it gives this more community like experience. And also, as far as I understand, you can track who has done what. So, like in Notion, you are adding things anonymously, like because you are part of the team, it doesn't matter that much. But when you have 3,000 people, doing working on one document, it's pretty important to track who has done what. Also, if you want to, give them some tokens for their contributions.
Exactly. Actually, that's what we are working on now because contribution and their attribution is very important to us. I mean, not just to track who's doing what, but to manage their reputation in the system as well, right? Based on what you're contributing and how much you're contributing, people need to value your skill or value your time spent in the document. So we're focusing on that currently.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. So, like, I can really tell that you are very passionate about building in public. So, could you tell a little bit about differences between building in public and building in a more standard way? Like, how you experienced these two modes?
Got it. So I would say building in public probably takes multiple forms, like a bunch of people do it just for marketing to get their initial set of users. While we adopt a different approach, we are more like, hey, it's like just building with an open door, right? Allow your network to come see what you're up to. If they have anything to share, allow them to, just contribute back to you. Or worst case, you're just inspiring a new generation of builders by showing them how things get built. So that's the kind of build in public approach we take. So which is why, like, if you've noticed, if you looked at our workspace on BIP itself, all our documents are public, our PRDs, what we are up to. So anybody can come see if they have something to share, they do that. If they just want to passively consume, they can do that. If they want to just get inspired, great. So that's the kind of approach we've been taking.
Yeah, this is kind of like open source type of thinking. I don't think it's that present in outside of computer science world. Like at least it wasn't 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's nice that you brought that up. I'm sorry to interject you. Actually, when we started out BIP, right, while we adopted the name Build in Public, the root idea was that it was, hey, there's open source for computer science folks, for coders to just go contribute to cool projects around the world. What's the equivalent for other professions, right? Like, okay, I mean, to start with, let's say adjacent professions like product managers or marketers in the tech field itself. Can I find cool, awesome projects and just get started? I mean, just get working on them on the side. And where's the platform for that? That's how we started BIP. And then we realized, I mean, that's why we named it BIP because it's aligned so well with Build in Public. And then we realized, hey, there's another set of entities that's thinking and doing exactly this, which is DAOs. And now our entire focus has moved on to enabling DAOs build in this way.
Yeah, and like what's your vision for DAOs? Like how do you feel that, how you feel that BIP puzzle can fit inside this bigger DAOs landscape that's growing super fast?
So, like, we want BIP to be the workspace where DAOs, first get started on. Like probably we're all used to, whenever we have a startup idea or we have a thought, we're used to going to either a Google Doc or a Notion and just jotting down your first points, right? We want
Mm-hmm.
Bip to be that place where whoever wants to just get started with a DAO comes here and puts their initial ideas out there and publishes it to the community and sees how where it goes, right? Like we want this to be the place where DAOs and contributors can find each other. Like today it's mostly DAOs coming in with their own set of contributors, but over time we want some sort of cross pollination. Let's say folks from one DAO find some other great projects and start contributing there, or DAOs
Mm-hmm.
find other great contributors from other DAOs and get them on board. So we want to be the workspace for DAOs.
Mm-hmm. What do you think are the biggest blockers to implement this kind of tools? Because like I'm part of two or maybe three DAOs so far. And I feel like Google Docs is like the default tool, at least for the early stages. Then most people try either Notion, sometimes Trello, which is not a good idea in my opinion. But what do you think can block or blocks? Because you, I guess, experienced some discussions with DAO teams so far.
Yeah, so like you said, the default so far is Google Docs or Notion. So I think the biggest blocker for us so far has been migration, right? If somebody's already started and invested their time in setting up a tool and all their data is there, it's just a hassle to move everything to another tool.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been a big blocker. So we're trying to find ways to reduce the barrier there. So, maybe have like a programmatic migration from Notion to BIP, things like that. But to be honest, there's also one other blocker, not really with respect to Google Docs, but with respect to Notion, right? With some of its project management capabilities with DB views and the Kanban view
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. I think DAOs are also doing some amount of project management there, which today is not possible on BIP. And that has been a little bit of a blocker. So we've seen some DAOs just move their content and collaboration piece here while they kept, let's say the published content and project management parts in Notion itself. So that has been a little bit of a blocker. But the way we are looking at it currently is, hey, project management on Notion is there, but it's probably not purpose built for DAOs. The way DAOs operate today, right, in seasons and guilds and giving out bounties for specific tasks and that incentive model, all of that is not deeply integrated into Notion. And that's the other big chunk we're trying to solve for DAOs.
Mm.
Like, can we try to have that kind of project management purpose built for the ways DAOs operate in BIP itself, along with a strong reputation system?
Mm-hmm. And how do you convince DAOs when you talk with them? Because I've seen that Super Team DAO joined you like I don't know, like 2 weeks ago, and this is like a pretty big project. How you made them use BIP?
So, primarily, like in our first demo, right, we try to focus on where we're different from Notion and how it helps DAOs. And based on all my discussions, at least, right, most DAOs acknowledge that Google Docs or Notions is suboptimal today, especially because it's not that. I mean, I see a few challenges. One is like if you want to keep it closed in the sense permission to see who's coming in and who's contributing, then Notion quickly blows up in terms of cost because once you start inviting people, you have to pay a per month per user basis.
Mm-hmm.
Google Docs lacks the project management capabilities of Notion. So there are some challenges there. And like just manually adding everybody and managing permissions is a big hassle if you want to do it that way. So a bunch of DAOs just made their workspace public. So they said, hey, I'll take a personal plan on Notion and just make it public. Anybody can come and edit.
Mm-hmm.
And they're okay with somebody going wild and just doing a control A delete because, hey, I can always go back to the version history and try to restore it.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than spending an hour or two on managing permissions every day. So they're already making all these compromises on Google Docs and Notion that we are aware of and that we are solving with our Git like workflow and our integration with Discord since they're already on Discord. So those are the 2 points we pitched to them, saying, hey, you want a kind of flow where anybody can contribute but it's still moderated. Our Git flow enables that. and you want your community to get access to it, but you don't want to spend like hours and hours every day in manually adding and removing people. Our Discord integration already does that. So come on board for these two things, and we're building out loads of other cool stuff that will help you do project management better and contributor attribution better. So that's been our pitch.
Okay, and how you generate leads, or like I don't know if it's the name for in this case, but do you just like go around different Discord channels and address people from DAOs, or is there any other way that you do it?
Got it. So far, it's mostly been through word of mouth. We haven't been actively, doing any sales or marketing efforts. So, in fact, the first DAO we acquired was through word of mouth from another user. That's when we realized, hey, this actually makes so much sense for DAOs. So currently, like it's mostly been through word of mouth, like folks contributing to DAOs are contributing to multiple DAOs. So when a DAO that they're in adopts BIP and they like it, they tend to go to other DAOs and say, hey, this is a tool that we can use. So that's been the most common form of acquisition. And otherwise, like we're all part of our entire team is also part of multiple DAOs. And that's also to learn from users and learn from DAOs in terms of how they operate so that it feeds back into our product. But whenever we see an opportunity there, like we see somebody discussing their problems with documentation or something, we try to pitch in and say, hey, why don't you take a look at BIP?
Yeah.
That's mostly how we've been acquiring. Most of our focus has been and is still on the product.
And how it's possible that your product is free?
So we're looking at alternative models of monetization. So one parallel I always like to think of is, hey, there's Slack, which is not free per se, and then there's Discord, which is free, but they have other models of monetization that allows them to keep it free for communities, right? We're thinking, okay, can we be that Discord to Notion? Right? A free alternative where we find alternative models of monetization. We have a few ideas, but haven't implemented any yet. Our goal is, just find some user love, get some stickiness with DAOs, then we can figure out a way that's not like subscription based. We are never gonna go to DAOs and say, hey, you have 10,000 users, now pay 10,000 into $3 or $4 a month.
Yeah. Okay. And I've seen your Discord channel, and although it's not like super big because it's like 100 something people, at least I've seen so many online, but it's pretty active. So how do you take care of the community? What do you do to make it active?
Yeah, we recently opened up our Discord server. So we are still figuring out the playbook for how to, keep our community engaged. But I think as a principle, we try to take any feedback and bugs or anything shared by the community or any user there very seriously. So we circle back on each and everything and we prioritize those bugs or enhancements in the roadmap. So that's our way of keeping our users and community happy that they're being listened to. That's the primary thing. The other is most of the folks we have are also interested in learning about Web3, getting their hands dirty in DAOs and all. So we try to enable some opportunities. Like let's say we are working on project management for DAOs. So we said, hey, we are planning to talk to 10 or 20 DAOs to figure out how they operate. If anybody's interested in doing this research with us, just join us. So that way we're giving out opportunities to learn for some of our users, and that's how we try to keep them engaged.
Okay, so you really co-create with them. Your product is co-created with the community.
Yep.
Okay, and what were the biggest tech challenges so far that you faced? What was the problem from the tech side?
Got it. I would say the biggest challenge, which of course is still ongoing and we're always optimizing for it, is enabling that Git-like workflow for a rich text kind of document, right? I think a few things were very important to us in that, let's say somebody rearranges content in a document. If we had gone the regular way, whoever just touches, let's say I move some contribution, some block from the last place to the first place in a document, then suddenly that gets attributed to me if we go the regular Git way. right? But we didn't want that to happen. Like, we wanted contribution attribution to be perfect. So ensuring like all of those are taken care of. Like, if I just move things around, it's still attributed to the person who last edited or wrote it. And ensuring positions don't go for a toss when we have this kind of a flow, when multiple people come and add content in between. How do I ensure that positions don't go for a toss now that we have this flow where each block is this thing by itself? So some of those, I think, just ensuring that Git workflow works really great for rich text document, that has been the biggest challenge.
Yeah, and also you prevent kind of hacking this contribution system, because I can imagine bad actors that will just try to come just like in corporations, there are these people that do nothing but they want to take all the glory. So I guess, like, in DAOs there will be these people, because people are people, like there are different types. So I guess some of them might join DAOs and try to look for this kind of hacking the system. So I am glad that you are so sensitive about it.
Yeah. I mean, while it's not perfect, we're always iterating, and that's a priority to us, because like a strong and properly designed incentive or reputation model goes a long way for DAOs.
And do you use or recommend any tools for DAOs apart from BIP? Just anything to make it easier to manage?
So, to be honest, I'm probably not the best person to share that advice, because we're
Okay.
still not like a full-fledged DAO in that we don't have our own token or tokenomics. I'm sure there are a bunch of tools that help with governance. Like, I've seen Snapshot being used a lot, but otherwise, I'm not the best judge, because we have a lot of missing pieces for ourselves too. So currently, we just use BIP for documentation and Discord for community and everything else.
Okay. And one question that came to my mind is that, if I was this cynical person and wanted to attack the concept of DAOs, I would say, okay, but you're giving tasks to people that you're not aware of their skills, like you don't know how well they can deliver. Because like in computer science, it's pretty like 0-1, like either, you see the code, whether someone's a good coder. But when it comes to more soft ideas like product management, you don't know how this person does the customer interviews because you're not there. Or when it comes to marketing, also you may not know how this person does that. So how can DAOs, make sure that the person that got task is not doing more harm than good, actually?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very critical piece, and that's probably going to be make or break for DAOs, if you ask me. And I'm sure a bunch of people across the world are trying to solve this problem, but like what we need is like proof of expertise or a reputation kind of a system, preferably on chain, so that it's open and anybody can read into it. But essentially, like the way we are looking at it is, at BIP at least, like all your contributions, we want to create a profile out of it that people can look through to see not just where you've contributed, but what those exact contributions are. And once you see the kind of contributions, you get a feel for the kind of skill a person has.
Okay.
And yeah, I think a lot of it is still like vague in our heads. We're just forming ideas around it, pitching it to people, trying to see where it takes us. But I think it's necessary. Like, irrespective of whether we do it on BIP or we do it like as an on-chain thing or whatever that system is, I think it's necessary.
Yeah, so actually, it's much more transparent than normal recruitment process, because like when you get a resume from someone, you see, oh, I've done project X, I've done project Y, I've done project Z, but you have no idea what this person has done there. And typically people try to say that they've done like 5x more or something. Like I remember one friend that she worked in this big multinational corporation, and they had a meeting in Miami, and they were just interns, but on this like management trainee program or something like that. So they were saying, oh, what you have done, and oh, I've done some workshops for people. Yeah, I've done some small projects. And one guy comes and says, I saved $27 million for our company. And everyone was like, oh my God, yeah, oh my God, how have you done it? And when they started digging in, it turned out that this guy actually just forwarded 5 emails and, took part in one meeting and said almost nothing. But, he was able to twist the things in his favor. But if you could track the contributions, then it will be impossible and will be much more transparent for people, and also for people who don't have this pedigree, like, people who have graduated from Harvard or Stanford or went to McKinsey or Google or whatever. Like, there are many talented folks that haven't gone this, I would say, like, traditional pedigree path, but they cannot show their work because it's in their companies. So it's, behind the closed doors.
Yeah. Yep. Actually, just the other day, we had this discussion within our team where we're saying, hey, like, think of this like a LinkedIn where you go and not just see where they were and like what they say they did, but the actual contributions that led to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just go to a person, you see their profile, what their exact contributions, and that'll be super cool.
Yeah. And even like, I can imagine that, I don't think DAOs will like take over the world, that like there will be only DAOs in the world. But, you can work in one company and just be part of DAO in your free time. And you have this kind of, portfolio of your contributions. And even if you want to change work from normal company like LLC to another LLC, you can just show this contribution as a way of enhancing your application.
True. Yep, absolutely.
I haven't thought about it before, but it's really, really intriguing. Okay, so I have 3, I might say, canned questions that are in every episode.
Mm-hmm.
So the question number 1 is, what's the most mind-blowing Web3 project that you have seen so far?
Okay, that's a tough one. So I wouldn't say mind-blowing, but I can share a few that I've really connected with.
Mm-hmm.
So one is Orchid. It's like a Web3 VPN service where anybody can give out their laptops to the VPN. So anybody can connect to the internet through your laptop.
Mm-hmm.
So that I thought was really interesting because I'm a regular user of VPN and thought, hey, this is interesting. It has it definitely has a bunch of issues. Like, how do you trust the person to not do anything with what you're browsing? But I thought that was an interesting concept. Then there's Fractional. I think it tries to fractionalize buying of NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's interesting because of late, like if we look at the best or, the most popular NFTs, right, they're beyond the means of a retail buyer, at least retail buyers who are just coming into the crypto world, right? So I thought that's interesting because it'll allow you to, probably buy a part of a really popular NFT.
Mm-hmm.
Then what else? Actually, just yesterday I saw a concept. I don't even know its name. Somebody built out an app where you can unlock a car door based on ownership of a specific ENS domain.
Wow, that's intriguing.
So that just got me thinking, like, hey, this is the power of having a shared global database, right? You can build anything on top of it. Previously, like one company owned it and nobody else could build on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that felt really cool. And another interesting project is Cooperative. So they're trying to build an incentive model for, companies, but instead of like, it's not really a token per se. You just mint something called a contribution credits that's backed by a legal agreement in which you say, hey, once the project reaches this milestone, these credits will just convert to an equivalent dollar value or whatever. So that way you can pay upfront and only actually pay up when the project reaches a certain milestone. So I thought that concept was interesting. These are some of the projects.
I really like this connection between ENS domains and physical world.
Yeah.
Like, it really shows how wallet is not a wallet. I don't really like this name because it's more like your internet profile. Like, in the long run, you can have everything connected to that. And the fact that you can log in with that to different services. Like when I first done that, I was like, so I don't need to create an account? Like there's no login with Google?
Yeah.
And when you open, for example, Uniswap, and you see that you just click connect your wallet and you swap and it's done. This is mind-blowing how smooth can UX become.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
True. The first time I did log in with MetaMask, I was like, what? It's done?
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the funnest thing that you experienced or have seen so far in the Web3 world? Something that made you smile or even laugh out loud?
Not really sure, but when I first learned, probably it was about Dogecoin. When I first learned that it was actually built as a meme, that anybody can build a coin and that it doesn't have any value, but it ended up becoming valuable.
Yeah.
That was sort of funny. Like, I didn't know that it was built as a shit coin, that hey, crypto's not really going to take off because anybody can create a coin, and then suddenly that takes off.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah, it gets me laughing when I learned that the founder of Dogecoin, he sold most of his Dogecoins before it was very expensive coin. And he used it to buy used Honda Civic, I guess, or something like that. And now he would be like a billionaire.
The most expensive Honda Civic then.
Yeah, yeah. Like I feel like everyone in crypto has these stories. Like whether it's like a Bitcoin pizza. Like sometimes when I even pay these gas fees in Ethereum, I feel as if I was buying Bitcoin pizza. Like
Yeah.
$100 for a transaction, and I'm wondering, oh, maybe in 5 years from now it will be like $10,000, and I will feel like an idiot. But whatever.
Yeah, true. I think gas fees are just too high now. Needs to go.
Yeah, I think it's it's this kind of very crypto friend thing to say, because there are this kind of canned lines that you use whenever you meet someone, like, oh, the weather is so good, or like this kind of comments. And in crypto art, it's like, yeah, the gas fees on Ethereum are so high. It's like universal icebreaker.
Good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, Nitish, like, it was super interesting to talk with you. And I have last question to you. Who do you think I should talk with next? Do you have any people that you think might be a good fit for this kind of conversation?
Got it. Not sure if you're already connected to them, but the startup called Questbook.
Yeah. I talked with Madhavan. Yeah.
Oh, you already talked to Madhavan? Yeah, I mean, he's a close friend.
Yeah, with Madhavan and Rohit. I had 2 episodes with Madhavan and Rohit from Mesh Finance.
Oh, okay, that's great. Then probably you could speak to Jacob of Cooperative, because I think his project is really interesting. I can share the link with you. And it's not like, it's probably like he's taken an approach where he's saying, hey, cash is still valuable, like the fiat currency, but people can't pay upfront when they just start off a project. So I'm not going to completely say token, but I'm going to have something that's between cash and a token. So that way I thought it was really...
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it's like very interesting because many people will not transition to crypto like us, like head first. They will need some kind of transitionary moment, which can take years.
Absolutely. That was what I felt too. And that's why I thought it was interesting.
Okay. So thanks a lot once again, and see you in the metaverse or on Twitter.
Thank you so much for having me, Anchek. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.